Unit 2. How do you feel today? It's a typical day at Dr. Valentine's office. Listen to the conversations.
Hello, Mr. Van Horn. Have a seat. The doctor will be with you in a minute.
Oh, good. I really feel awful.
That's too bad. What's the matter?
Well, I've got a terrible headache, a sore throat, and a fever.
So, Mr. Van Horn, what can I do for you?
I really don't feel well. I woke up with a terrible headache and I have a fever. My throat hurts too.
Well, Mr. Van Horn, you have the flu. Nothing serious.
What should I do?
You should get some rest. Stay in bed for a few days. You can take aspirin for your headache. How do you feel today, Mrs. Randolph?
A little better, thanks. But my back still hurts.
Can you bend over and touch your toes?
No, I can't even touch my knees.
Your blood pressure is down. That's a good sign. But you really should lose some weight.
How? Should I change my diet?
Yes. Try to eat less fat and salt. And, how often do you exercise?
Well, to be honest, not very often. In fact, almost never. I sit at a desk all day.
You should get some exercise. Take a long walk every day, for instance.
Now listen to the conversations again and repeat each line.
Hello, Mr. Van Horn. Have a seat. The doctor will be with you in a minute.
Oh, good. I really feel awful.
That's too bad. What's the matter?
Well, I've got a terrible headache, a sore throat, and a fever.
So, Mr. Van Horn, what can I do for you?
I really don't feel well. I woke up with a terrible headache, and I have a fever. My throat hurts too.
Well, Mr. Van Horn, you have the flu. Nothing serious?
What should I do?
You should get some rest. Stay in bed for a few days. You can take aspirin for your headache. How do you feel today, Mrs. Randolph?
A little better, thanks. But my back still hurts.
Can you bend over and touch your toes?
No, I can't even touch my knees.
Your blood pressure is down. That's a good sign. But you really should lose some weight.
How? Should I change my diet?
Yes. Try to eat less fat and salt. And, how often do you exercise?
Well, to be honest, not very often. In fact, almost never. I sit at a desk all day.
You should get some exercise. Take a long walk every day, for instance.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, all over the world. How do you feel today? Yes, this is the question today in our lesson. Dr. Valentine is a general practitioner. That is, he doesn't specialize in a particular area, but rather treats a variety of different diseases. Mr. Van Horn, Mrs. Randolph, and Mrs. Sinclair all have health problems that are fairly typical, but they don't require them to see a specialist. Patients in the United States are responsible for all medical costs, including medicine. Therefore, it is very important to have health insurance. Now let's see about the language in this lesson. The expression, "What can I do for you?" is also used by those serving the public in other ways, such as a salesperson, auto mechanic, or a bank teller. And also, "That's too bad" is an expression of sympathy. In our lesson we also have a typical day, which means a usual day. In part A we have this: the doctor will be with you in a minute. In a minute means shortly. Then we also have "I feel awful." Awful means very bad, of course. After that we have sore throat. Sore is a painful part of the body caused either by infection or by using that muscle too much. We also have the word fever, which means an illness or medical condition in which you have very high temperature, right? You feel like burning inside your body. In part C we have the word the flu, which is short for influenza, which means a very bad, severe cold, right? Then in part D we have bend over. Can you bend over? To move part of the body so that it's not in a straight or in an upright position. In part E we have the word diet. Should I change my diet? Diet is the kind of food we eat each day. So this is our diet. Okay folks, these were some new words and expressions we had in this lesson, and I thought this kind of explanation might help one way or another. As you know, these introductory conversations that we have in our lessons are the backbone of our learning, right, for the rest of the materials that we have. So that's why we listen 2 times, right, in order to reinforce our learning and to reinforce our practice for the much better understanding of the rest of the materials we have throughout our lesson. So here it is once again.
Unit 2. How do you feel today? It's a typical day at Dr. Valentine's office. Listen to the conversations.
Hello, Mr. Van Horn. Have a seat. The doctor will be with you in a minute.
Oh, good. I really feel awful.
That's too bad. What's the matter?
Well, I've got a terrible headache, a sore throat, and a fever.
So, Mr. Van Horn, what can I do for you?
I really don't feel well. I woke up with a terrible headache and I have a fever. My throat hurts too.
Well, Mr. Van Horn, you have the flu. Nothing serious.
What should I do?
You should get some rest. Stay in bed for a few days. You can take aspirin for your headache. How do you feel today, Mrs. Randolph?
A little better, thanks. But my back still hurts.
Can you bend over and touch your toes?
No, I can't even touch my knees.
Your blood pressure is down. That's a good sign. But you really should lose some weight.
How? Should I change my diet?
Yes. Try to eat less fat and salt. And, how often do you exercise?
Well, to be honest, not very often. In fact, almost never. I sit at a desk all day.
You should get some exercise. Take a long walk every day, for instance.
Now listen to the conversations again and repeat each line.
Hello, Mr. Van Horn. Have a seat. The doctor will be with you in a minute.
Oh, good. I really feel awful.
That's too bad. What's the matter?
Well, I've got a terrible headache, a sore throat, and a fever.
So, Mr. Van Horn, what can I do for you?
I really don't feel well. I woke up with a terrible headache, and I have a fever. My throat hurts too.
Well, Mr. Van Horn, you have the flu. Nothing serious?
What should I do?
You should get some rest. Stay in bed for a few days. You can take aspirin for your headache. How do you feel today, Mrs. Randolph?
A little better, thanks. But my back still hurts.
Can you bend over and touch your toes?
No, I can't even touch my knees.
Your blood pressure is down. That's a good sign. But you really should lose some weight.
How? Should I change my diet?
Yes. Try to eat less fat and salt. And, how often do you exercise?
Well, to be honest, not very often. In fact, almost never. I sit at a desk all day.
You should get some exercise. Take a long walk every day, for instance.
Alright, that was nice. Now, the figure it out task to check our comprehension. Say right, wrong, or I don't know. Number 1, Mr. Van Horn has the flu. The answer is right because we can find it in part C. Yeah, doctor says, Mr. Van Horn, you have the flu. Number 2, Mr. Van Horn's flu is very serious. What do you think? The answer is wrong because the doctor says nothing serious. Number 3, Mr. Sinclair gets lots of exercise. What do you think? The answer is wrong because in part D we can see the doctor says, how often do you exercise? He says, to be honest, not very often. In fact, almost never. Alright. Number 4. Mr. Sinclair eats too much fat and salt. What do you think? The answer is right, and the doctor says eat less fat and salt. Yeah? In response to the question Mr. Sinclair asks, he says, should I change my diet? And doctor says, yeah, eat less fat and salt. So we understand he eats a lot of fat and salt. Number 5. Mrs. Randolph often gets backaches. The point is we don't know about often. We know about now, but nothing is mentioned about often. Number 6. Aspirin is good for headache. What do you think? Yeah, the answer is right because in part C, the doctor says you can take aspirin for your headache. Number 7. Mr. Van Horn feels terrible. What is your answer? Yeah, the answer is right because in part B, Mr. Van Horn says, I really don't feel well. I woke up with a terrible headache and I have a fever. My throat hurts too. So, in general, he feels terrible. Exercise 2, find another way to say it. We should find alternatives, yeah, from the lesson. Number 1, I've got a sore throat too. The answer is my throat hurts too, taken from the lesson. So, number 2, I still have backache. What do you think? What do we have in the lesson? Yeah, we have my back still hurts in the lesson. Right. Number 3. How are you today? What can we find in the lesson as an alternative? How do you feel today? Which is also the topic of our lesson. Alright, number 4. What's wrong? So we can say, what's the matter? Alright. Number 5. Sit down. We can say, have a seat. Okay. Number 6. Should I eat different food? What do you think? Should I change my diet? Okay, that's fine. Now, have you ever been late somewhere? I'm sure it happened to every one of us. So Eva Kovacs, Steve's sister, is late for school this morning. Eva is explaining to the teacher why she's late. The appropriate behavior when you are late depends on the situation and the degree of lateness. A general rule for classroom behavior is not to disturb the teacher or the class. Apologies and a brief explanation may be given when the teacher is free, such as after class or during a break. Since the students in Eva's class are working independently, it is acceptable for Eva to make her apologies during class time. Several students are waiting in line behind Eva to talk to Miss Edwards about the class assignments. The daily school announcements are being made over the PA, which is the public address system. Now, a little bit of talk about the language used in this section of our lesson. In this section we have the word chemistry. So chemistry is a science that is connected with studying the structure of substances and the way they change or combine with each other. So that is chemistry. Another word we have in part 1 is develop. Eva says, I took some pictures. I wanted to develop them right away. You know, before digital cameras were popular, the cameras were different and the process was also different, the photography process. Develop here means to make a photograph out of a photographic film using chemicals. Yeah. So this is to develop. Yeah. So to make the pictures appear on the film. Yeah, photographic film, in fact. Then in the second part of conversation, we have experiment. Miss Edwards says, can you do the experiment? Which means a scientific test. Then another word that we have here, Eva says, I went over it, right? To go over something means to have a thorough examination of something to make sure it's all right. Yeah? So that's it. Now let's listen in and see what's happening in the classroom.
I'm sorry I'm late. Eva Kovacs is Steve's sister. She's late for school this morning. Her first class is chemistry with Miss Edwards. 1. Comprehension Dialog. Listen to the conversation.
Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Miss Edwards. I'm really sorry I'm late.
You look a little tired. Is something wrong?
No, not really. I went to a soccer game last night and took some pictures. I wanted to develop them right away, so I was up until midnight.
You should really get more sleep at night.
I know. I'm not going to do that again. Would you like to see one of the pictures? It's a good one.
Okay.
This is my brother Steve. He played in the soccer game.
He really looks like you.
Yes. Everyone tells us we look alike.
Well, can you do the experiment?
Yes. I went over it before the game. Should I work with Bill?
Yes, please.
All right. Say right, wrong, or I don't know. Number 1, Eva went to bed late last night. The answer is right because we know she went to the soccer game last night. And then she said, I was up until midnight. I was up means I stayed up. I didn't go to sleep, or I was awake. Number 2. Steve took some pictures of Eva at the soccer game. What is your idea? Yeah, the answer is I don't know. We don't know about this one. Number 3. Eva got to school early this morning. What do you think? It is obviously wrong because she was late, yeah? And she says, I'm sorry, I'm late. Number 4. Eva usually goes to bed at 10 o'clock. What do you say? Yeah, we don't know about this. So the answer is I don't know. Number 5. Miss Edwards gave her some advice. What do you think? The answer is right, because what does Miss Edwards say? She says you should really get more sleep at night. This is her advice. Yeah. Number 6. She's going to do the experiment with Bobby. What do you think? Yeah, it is wrong, of course, because she's doing the experiment with Bill. Right. Okay. Now let's go to the listen in part.
3. Listen in. The students are listening to an announcement over the loudspeaker. Read the questions below. Then listen to the announcement and answer the questions.
May I have your attention, please? There's a football game this Friday at 3:30. Tickets are $3.50. You can buy them in the cafeteria between 10 and 3. Come and see our team win.
Now, answer the questions. 1. When's the football game? 2. How much are the tickets? 3. Where can the students buy tickets?
All right. So, number 1. When's the football game? This afternoon at 3:30. Number 2. How much are the tickets? $3.50. Number 3. Where can the students buy tickets? In the cafeteria.
4. Say it right. Practice this conversation. First, listen to the conversation.
Can you do the first problem?
No, I can't. But I can do the second one.
Good. Can someone do the first problem?
I can, Miss Edwards.
Now, listen to the conversation again and repeat each line.
Can you do the first problem?
No, I can't. But I can do the second one.
Good. Can someone do the first problem?
I can, Miss Edwards.
Now your turn. Bobby Mendes isn't feeling well. He's talking to his friend Bonnie Perkins. Act out the conversation. So, the first line has a blank, and then comma, and then Bobby. Then when we look at the next line, it says, oh, I feel awful. This answer makes us understand to say, what's the matter, Bobby? As a question, right? The answer guides us and helps us understand what the blank should be. in fact. Then after that, there is a blank, and in the next line we have well, blank, the nurse's office. So as it talks about the nurse's office, we must understand there is something wrong. There is a health issue because it talks about nurse's office. So in the second line, Bobby says, "Oh, I feel awful. My throat hurts." Then Bonnie says, "Well, you should go to the nurse's office." Then the next line, Bobby says, "Yeah, I know, but Miss Edwards has to write a note for me." Then there's a question. Where's the nurse's office? How do we understand we should ask this question? Because in the next line it says it's in room 2B near the library. Alright? This is how we fill in the blank and complete this conversation. Alright, now it's time to talk a little bit about grammar. So the first point we have is about frequency adverbs. You remember adverbs are the words that explain the verbs or adjectives or other adverbs. Or, in other words, adverb is a word that adds to the meaning of a verb or an adjective or another adverb. Here now we have frequency adverb, the kind of adverb that talks about repetition of something. Yeah, it shows that an activity happens more than once, right? As a habit or as a regular activity. We have some examples in the frame. He often plays tennis after work. He usually plays tennis after work. He or she sometimes plays tennis after work. He or she almost always plays tennis after work. He or she almost never plays tennis after work. He or she hardly ever plays tennis after work. As you can see in this sentence, he and she are the subjects, and often, usually, sometimes, etc. are adverbs, frequency adverbs. Then play is the verb, right? So we understand frequency adverbs are put before the main verb in a sentence and after the subjects, right? So this is the placement of frequency adverbs. Then on the other side it says he or she plays tennis after work every other day. He or she plays tennis after work once a week, twice a month, 3 times a year, very often. These are all time expressions. We call them time expressions. The placement of time expressions is at the end of the sentence. We can also use them in the beginning of the sentence if we want to make our sentence emphatic, right? For example, if we say every other day he plays tennis after work, we emphasize, we make it emphatic this way. Alright? So let's see how we do exercise 1 to test ourselves. The next point to talk about is the modal auxiliary verbs can and should. Can talks about the ability to do something, and should talks about a mild obligation, a soft obligation, or a suggestion. The placement of these two modal auxiliary verbs is after the subject and before the main verbs. As you can see in the frames that we have, I can play soccer very well. I should stay at home all day. Then in negative form, I can't play soccer very well. I shouldn't stay at home all day. We simply add not to these two modal auxiliary verbs to turn the sentences into negative forms. Then in the other frame, we can see yes, no questions and short answers. By replacement of the modal auxiliaries can and should with the subject, we can have the question forms, as you can see. For example, you can speak Spanish, then it became can you speak Spanish? Then the short answer is yes I can or no I can't. In the other frame we have should I take an aspirin? The original form, the affirmative form, was I should take an aspirin. Then we replaced the subject and the verbs, the modal auxiliary verbs. The result is should I take an aspirin? The short answers are yes you should or no you shouldn't. So that's about it. The other grammar point we encounter here is information questions, and with the question words where, when, who, and what, right? So in these sentences, apart from these question words, we also have those modal auxiliary verbs. Let's take a look at them. Where can I get the bus? So where asks about locations and places. Then when can he come? When talks about time. Then who should I call? Who talks about the identity or the person, which person, or what person in fact. Yeah. Then what should we do? The question word what is used to ask about or to ask for information or someone's opinion. For example, what are you doing? Something like this. The point to notice is the usage of these question words with those modal auxiliaries we talked about already, can and should. Alright, so that's about it. So, of course, it goes without saying that when we ask these sorts of questions, we need to give some information. We need to explain something, right? When we use the words where, when, who, and what. Now let's see how we can do these exercises all together to test our comprehension. Now we have our reading comprehension text, which is about some sports-related issues, some sports activities, some problems as a result of playing those sports, and the solution to all those problems.
Lesson 11. Reading. Here is an article about sports medicine. Listen as you read the article.
Americans love sports. They love to play them, to watch them on television, and to talk about them. But this national pastime sometimes has serious consequences, at least for the players. People who play tennis year after year, for example, often develop tennis elbow, and it is easy to hurt a knee or shoulder in a soccer or football game. These injuries happen while the player is having fun, but they still hurt. A few months ago, Kathleen Simmons injured her knee in a volleyball game. Her doctor told her to rest her knee and wear a bandage. Simmons, a sports writer for a city newspaper, loves to play volleyball. When her doctor's advice did not work, she thought she would never play again. Then Simmons learned about video surgery. With the help of video technology, doctors can now repair many injuries and get people back on the playing field and back to their jobs much faster. Simmons found a hospital that was using this new technology and made an appointment. Doctors there told her the surgery could help. For the operation, her doctor put a very small camera lens inside her knee. The special lens sent back pictures which appeared on a television screen. The doctor then inserted a tiny surgical instrument. As he worked, he could see the inside of Kathleen's knee on the TV. With the help of the large picture on the screen, he was able to make very accurate repairs without opening her knee. Simmons started walking 5 days after her operation. "My knee hurt a lot the first few days," she reported, "but I felt better very quickly." Now, 6 months after her operation, Simmons can do everything she did before her injury. "It feels like a new knee," she said. "I can even play volleyball again."
All right, folks, now we have a comprehension check. Number 1, choose the best title for the article. As you know, our article didn't have any title. So based on the context of our article, what title can we choose for it? So, Sports in America, Video Surgery, Volleyball, and A Dangerous Game. Exercise 2, match the words with their synonyms, right? So we have these words: pastime, consequence, injure, surgery, accurate, and tiny. On the other side we have very small, exact, hurt, operation, result, leisure time, activity. Alright, so let's do it now. On your own, body talk, hypertension and you. Hypertension is the same as high blood pressure. By Dr. Samuel Queen. Question: Dear Dr. Queen, recently my husband, who is 39 years old, had a physical examination, and his doctor said that his blood pressure was high. My husband says he isn't surprised because his father has high blood pressure too. What causes high blood pressure, and what can my husband do about it? Worried. The answer: they're worried. Doctors don't always know what causes high blood pressure, also called hypertension. But we do know a few things about this disease. For example, more men than women have it, and it usually begins in middle or old age, and it sometimes runs in families. Many people have high blood pressure without knowing it, because there are usually no obvious symptoms. If you want to know if you have high blood pressure, ask your doctor to check it with a blood pressure machine. If you have high blood pressure, what can you do about it? If you're heavy, losing weight can sometimes help. Some people's blood pressure goes down when they give up salt. Other people can improve by learning to relax and by getting the right kind of exercise. Fortunately, it is possible to control high blood pressure today with proper medicine. High blood pressure can lead to serious problems like heart disease, so it is very important to control it. Now, It says, this question and answer column is from Physical Fitness magazine. So it's an article which is real. It's from a real article, right? It says, read the column, then say right or wrong. So let's concentrate on this for a few minutes, then we check them together. Alright, let's begin. Number 1. Hypertension is another name for high blood pressure. That's right, because it is mentioned here in doctor's reply. Yeah. Number 2. Men have high blood pressure more often than women do. What is the answer? The answer is right, because in the first paragraph, in doctor's reply, he wrote more men than women have it. Okay. Number 3. High blood pressure usually starts when a person is around 25. What do you think? The answer is wrong, because the text says it begins usually in middle or old age. Number 4. People with high blood pressure usually feel sick. What do you think? It is wrong, because the doctor says there are usually no obvious symptoms. Right. Number 5. Your blood pressure may go down if you lose weight. What is your opinion? The answer is right, because in the second paragraph it says, if you're heavy, losing weight can sometimes help. Right? Number 6. A person with high blood pressure should eat more salt. What do you think? Well, the answer is wrong, because the text says the high blood pressure goes down when they give up salt. They give up salt means they stop eating salt. Number 7. Medicines do not help people with hypertension. What do you say? The answer is wrong, because the text says, the second paragraph says, fortunately, it is possible to control high blood pressure today with proper medicine. Yeah. Number 8. High blood pressure is not really serious because there are few symptoms. What is your opinion? It is certainly wrong, because in the second paragraph it says high blood pressure can lead to serious problems like heart disease. So it is very important to control it.
Unit 2. Exercise 1. Follow the conversation. Mark the box next to the sentence you hear. Barbara is at the health clinic.
I woke up with a bad headache. I really feel awful.
And you have a fever, too. But it's not serious.
Should I stay in bed?
Well, you don't have to stay in bed, but get some rest.
Should I take aspirin?
Take 2 aspirin every 4 hours.
Exercise 2. Complete the conversations you hear. Choose A, B, or C. 1.
Can you bend over?
Sure.
Can you touch your toes?
Two.
You really should get some exercise.
How often should I exercise?
Three.
How do you feel today?
Four.
Hello, Hello, Bill. How are you?
I really feel terrible.
What's the matter?
I've got the flu.
Five.
I've got a terrible sore throat.
Six. My daughter has a high fever. Should I call the doctor? Exercise 6. Listen to the conversations. Use the information you hear to complete each sentence below. Dr. Mills is seeing some patients. 1. What's your name?
Harry Ewing.
And what's the matter, Mr. Ewing?
I have a terrible headache.
Have you taken any aspirin?
No, I haven't.
You should take 2 tablets right now. 2.
Hello, I'm Victor Rose.
Hello, Victor. What can I do for you?
I feel awful. I think I have a fever.
Let's see. Why, yes, you do have a fever. Do you have a sore throat, too?
Yes, I do, and my head hurts.
I think you have the flu. Three. Mrs. Smith, your blood pressure is up. That's not good.
I know. What should I do?
You should lose some weight and eat less salt and fat. 4. How often do you exercise, Tina?
Oh, I almost never exercise. I'm in school all day, and when I go home, I do my homework and watch TV.
Well, you've got to start getting some exercise. Try to take a long walk every day. Exercise 7. Listen to the conversation. Then use the phrases below to write 6 sentences about Sarah's parents. Sarah tells Mrs. Schwartz about her parents.
Sarah, how good to see you. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Mrs. Schwartz. And you?
Oh, pretty good. How are your parents?
Well, my father isn't feeling very well this week.
I'm sorry to hear that. What's wrong?
He has the flu, and he doesn't want to stay in bed. He's hardly ever sick, and he really hates to stay home.
I hope he feels better very soon. And your mother?
She's fine. She always feels great. She sees the doctor about twice a year, but nothing is ever wrong with her.
Does she still swim every day?
Almost always, but not when the weather is bad. She also plays tennis once a week. Dad usually plays with her, but this week he's in bed.
Now, an important exercise to help us with our conversational ability. Match the questions and answers. There are 2 answers for each question. Then write the questions and answers. Number 1 is an example. The question is, what's the matter? 2 answers. My throat hurts and I've got a headache. Now let's think about the other possible answers to the rest of the questions. Number 2. What can I do? There are 2 answers. What are they? One of them is part C, take an aspirin. The other one is part G, you should get some rest. Number 3. How do you feel today? 2 answers. A, awful. E, much better, thanks. Number 4. How often do you exercise? B, maybe about once a month. F, not very often. Number 5. Can you run a mile? I says, no, I can't. J says, yes, and I can swim a mile too. Complete the conversation with frequency adverbs such as often and always, or expressions of frequency such as once a week and every other day. There may be several possible answers. Richard and Gary are talking about household chores. Richard, so how often do you clean your apartment? Gary, about once a week. I always clean it on Saturdays. Richard, what about the kitchen? Gary, I clean it every night and I sweep the floor every day too. Richard, I should clean more often. I only clean twice a month. How about dinner? How often do you cook in the evenings? Gary, not very often. I hate to cook. I eat breakfast at home, but I almost always go out for dinner. What about you? Richard, I don't like to go out to eat, so I usually make dinner at home. I really like to cook. I just hate to clean. Read the instructions for the use of the aspirin, then give advice to the people below. Let's read the instructions. Sleeplessness. When sleeplessness is caused by minor pain and discomfort, take 1 or 2 tablets with a full glass of water every 4 hours as needed, up to 12 tablets a day. Directions for children: 5-grain tablets. To be administered only under adult supervision. For relief of headache, minor muscular aches and pains, toothache, discomfort and fever of colds and flu. Under 3 years, consult your physician. 3 to under 4 years, half a tablet. 4 to under 6 years, 3/4 of a tablet. 6 to under 9 years, 1 tablet. 9 to under 11 years, 1 1/4 of tablets. 11 to under 12 years, 1 1/2 tablets. 12 and over, same as adults. Take with full glass of water. Indicated dosage may be repeated every 4 hours up to 5 times a day. High or continued fever, severe or persistent sore throat, especially when accompanied by high fever, headache, nausea, or vomiting, may be serious. Consult your physician. Warnings. Keep this and all medicines out of children's reach. In case of accidental overdose, contact the physician immediately. Do not exceed dose unless directed by a physician. Do not take this product if you are allergic to aspirin, have asthma or gastric ulcer or its symptoms, or are taking a medication that affects the clotting of blood, except under advice of a physician. For relief of headache, minor muscular aches and pains, toothache, discomfort, and fever of colds and flu. Directions. Adults 1 or 2 tablets with a full glass of water. Repeat every 4 hours as needed, up to 12 tablets a day. For important directions and children's dosage, see package insert. Caution. For children under 3 years of age, consult your physician. Warning. Keep this and all medicines out of children's reach. In case of accidental overdose, contact a physician immediately. Alright, these were the instructions for the use of the aspirin. Now let's see what advice we can give to the people below. Picture number 1. I have an awful headache. So the advice is, based on the instruction of course, you should take 1 or 2 tablets every 4 hours. Picture number 2. My 8-year-old son has the flu. How much aspirin should he take? So what is your suggestion based on the instructions we had? Alright, he should take 1 aspirin tablet every 4 hours, up to 5 times a day. Picture number 3. How often can I give aspirin to my 13-year-old daughter? What is your advice? Yeah, she can take 1 or 2 aspirin tablets every 4 hours, up to 12 tablets a day. Number 4. My 2-year-old daughter has a fever. Can I give her aspirin? What do you think? Yeah, we should say you should ask your doctor. Number 5. My baby daughter ate some aspirin. What should I do now? What do you think? You should call a doctor immediately. Alright. Number 6. I have a toothache. Can I take aspirin? What is your suggestion? Yes, you can take 1 or 2 tablets every 4 hours, up to 12 tablets a day. Alright, thanks, great. Now, act out the conversation. Take the part of student A or student B. Here we must produce and make a conversation. Student A. You lost your wallet in a restaurant. You had $100 and some traveler checks in it. Ask student B for advice. Student B. Student A lost his or her wallet in a restaurant. Find out what was in the wallet and then give advice. Here are some suggestions. Call the bank, call the restaurant, call the police. Maybe someone took it. Someone took it means someone stole it. Alright, so this is the exercise that you can, in fact it's a drill, right? It's oral practice. You can practice it with your friend, yeah, or anybody around you who's interested in English conversations and learning English, alright? So, just do it. Complete the conversations with questions using can or should and the words in parentheses. Number 1, an example. My friend lost his traveler's check. What should he do? I think he should call the bank right away. Number 2. Excuse me, sir. We have where in parentheses. What do you think we can ask? by looking at the next sentence, which says, well, the post office is closed today, but you can go to Al's grocery store. They have a stamp machine there. We understand that the question should be about stamps, should be about buying stamps, right? So this is how we answer it. So number 2 says, excuse me, sir, where can I get some stamps? The answer is, well, the post office is closed today, but you can go to Al's grocery store. They have a stamp machine there. 3. Let's have a party. Great. We have who? And the answer is, well, we definitely have to invite Roberta and Shirley. They always invite us to their parties. What do you think the question should be? Yeah. So, let's have a party. Great. Who should we invite? Well, we definitely have to invite Roberta and Shirley. They always invite us to their parties. Number 4. My boss said I can't take my vacation this month. Really? When? The answer is maybe next month. How can we complete it? What do you think? Alright. So, really? When can you take it? Maybe next month. Number 5. Oh no, there's no hot water. The word in parentheses is what? And the answer is call the landlord. What do you think we should say? Yes, that's right. What should we do? Call the landlord. Number 6. I'd like to go to Greece next month. In parentheses we have when, and in the next line we have, you mean you don't have your ticket yet? You should call your travel agent right now. How can we ask this question? What should we say? What should we ask? Yeah, I'd like to go to Greece next month. When should I get my ticket? You mean you don't have your ticket yet? You should call your travel agent right now. Last not least, writing. Yes, writing practice. Read the conversation, then write Mrs. Vega's note to John's parents. John McDaniel is a student at Rockridge Elementary School. He is not feeling well today and has gone to see the school nurse, Aunt Vega. Mrs. Vega, what's the matter, John? John, I don't feel very well, Mrs. Vega. I've got a terrible headache. Mrs. Vega, you have a fever too. How's your throat? John, it feels a little sore. Mrs. Vega, I think you have the flu. John, what should I do? Mrs. Vega, well, first I'm going to send you home. Take aspirin and stay in bed. You should feel better in a few days. Take this note and give it to your parents. John, thank you, Mrs. Vega. Now we imagine we are Mrs. Vega indeed, and we should write Mrs. Vega's note to John's parents. What do you think we should write? Well, I have an example, I wrote something as an example. I wrote like this. Dear Mr. and Mrs. McDaniel, John has a terrible headache. He also has a fever and sore throat. I think he has the flu. He should take aspirin and stay in bed. Sincerely yours, Ann Vega. Well, this was just an example, right? You can write your own way, yeah? Your writing can be longer or shorter. Not shorter indeed, can be longer, because shorter than this doesn't convey all the meanings, all the concept, right? Alright, so don't forget writing is very important. If you have questions or there is something ambiguous or not clear, you can ask me your questions in the comment section of YouTube. Alright. It was great to be with you and to work with you. See you next time. Goodbye.